some articles there. I think we're going to be joined by David Pine here in a moment, if we can make connection with him, because it looks like Vladimir Putin is willing to come to the table to discuss a ceasefire, which is good for all of us. But there's also a military exercise between Russia, Iran, and China that is soon unfolding. We'll get to all that. We also have some exciting news here. The guys on the team have been working on something for about 3 months, and I'm very excited about it, and it means a lot to me. And I'll share it with you for the very first time here today in just a few moments. I do want to go to something over at technocracy.news. Our buddy Patrick Wood, who hosts a show 2 days a week here with Logan House, called Technocracy News. At his website, technocracynews.com, and I've now put it over at worldviewreport.com. Now, this is literally in our backyard. Here it is, Moss's Colossus in Memphis. That's Colossus, okay? Moss, that's Elon Musk. Elon Musk has this Colossus in Memphis to reach 3 million GPUs. Prepares to eat the world. This is at the old Electrolux factory, okay? And I guess David says he's ready, Logan. This is at the old Electrolux factory that Elon bought last year. And in about 9 weeks, he had this thing trained in and going. And he's the one that told Jordan Peterson, it may be our God. Our next God may come out of Memphis. No, thank you. And he joked that, Memphis, Egypt, like Egyptian gods. Well, this is very interesting because I don't know anything about this movie, but apparently in 1970, there was a sci-fi fiction horror called Colossus. Colossus, the Forbidden Project, where the U.S. military builds a supercomputer that takes the U.S. and the world hostage, threatening nuclear annihilation, okay? And now Musk is expanding what he calls Colossus with another 100-acre purchase in Memphis. Okay, so we can look at this as far as us here in the Mid-South goes. Let's look at the good, let's look at the bad, okay? Here's the good. A lot of jobs. That's pretty good. We like that. High-paying jobs. Yeah, we like that. And high-paying jobs generally mean people buy houses. We like that. This should be good for real estate prices here in the Mid-South. That's good. That's good. Now, let's go to and they buy things. They consume things, so that's good for the economy, right? They eat at restaurants and whatnot. That's all good for the Mid-South. But wait a minute now. What about power? What about the ability to power these? Well, here's a timeline in this article. December 31st, 2025, they're going to be up to 1 million. So this year, by the end of the year, 1 million GPUs. They can deploy by 3 months or more as everything has to go right. Or excuse me, they can delay by 3 months or more. Everything has to go right. 800,000 chips. Wow. By December 31st, 2026, they want to be at 2 million GPUs. And December 31st, 2027, they want to be at 3 million GPUs. Now, what we're talking about here is a lot of computer chips, right? And now we have the issue of power. Power pace, 33 MW a month. What is that? Megawatts to 100 megawatts a month. First burst aligns with AI's rapid turbine development and the Tennessee Valley Authority's 1.2 gigawatt pledge by 2027. The constraints, 750,000 square foot and 13 MGD cooling suffice. Remember, Logan, did you say that Elon said he had to use 2/3 of America's coolant? So they were backing up semi-trucks to keep this thing cool. Okay. So here's the issue. And Patrick Wood texted me and he said, you got power, Memphis? Question mark. You know the old slogan, you got milk? That was what was that, back in the early 2000s or 90s maybe, right? I don't know, 90s, got milk? It was an ad, right? Big ad. And people started using that phrase for other things. Well, how about this one? Got power, Memphis? Because some are saying this thing is going to draw a lot of power. Well, I'll just tell you, as far as I'm concerned, it's a good thing we put in a gigantic Generac generator. I mean, huge. Because we not only have disruptive weather here in the Mid-South, as you do in Minnesota and Wisconsin and other parts, you have disruptive power events. But here in the Mid-South, we get a lot of tornadoes, thunderstorms, a lot of wind from those storms. And in fact, I guess we're in the bullseye for another one coming up. What, tomorrow? Saturday, Logan? Saturday? They're already predicting tornadoes, flooding, big old map right around the Mid-South. But thankfully, we put in here at World YouTube a gigantic Generac because we're like, how can you run a broadcast operation if you have your power go down? And it is not uncommon here in the Mid-South for the power to go down for a few days or even a few weeks in the past. So thankfully, we have that, but not everybody does. We can do it and write it off. It's a business operational cost, right? But I don't know. Hopefully nothing will come of this. But this is something that a lot of people are warning about all over the country. And you might want to double check where you live, folks. What kind of AI data centers do you have where you live? A lot of people in the Mid-South know about this, but a lot of people don't. They're just not paying attention to the news. They don't know about this. And they certainly, if they do know about it, the few people I've talked about it with, they don't even know that there are concerns for the power and the power grid. That's not even on their radar. They're not even thinking about it. But this article goes into all of the servers, the server racks, the density, the kilowatts per rack, the water coolant. They need 13 million gallons a day, folks. The water cooling, 13 million gallons a day. They need 9,028 gallons per minute for cooling. Can you believe that, Logan? 9,028 gallons per minute for cooling. And then they've got their liquid cooling. Their liquid cooling, that's what you were talking about earlier, right? And they get into some of the numbers and capacity for that. And then they plan to expand beyond 1 million chips. I guess they're planning on the Tennessee Valley Authority and MLGW, Memphis Light, Gas and Water, helping them do this. They're saying the possibility is, folks, 1.5 to 2 million chips are plausible by 2027. So we'll watch and see. Now, it's interesting that they call this thing colossal. I had never heard of this 1970 film. I'm not a big sci-fi guy. I'd never heard of it until a few minutes ago when Patrick would text me the article. But a 1970 film, Colossal, the Forbidden Project, where this supercomputer takes the U.S. and world hostage, threatening nuclear annihilation. And Musk is expanding his Colossal with another 100-acre purchase in Memphis, Tennessee. It's really interesting, right in our backyard. Who would have thought, right? Brennan House and Elon Musk end up in the same town with totally polar opposite worldviews. Although there are times I'm cheering Musk, other times I'm going, not a good idea. That's not good. That's not good. Other times I'm just going, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what that even means. But I never thought I would be in a town that was frequented by Elon Musk. And apparently he does frequent town. Now, I would love to go do a tour, but I've already checked. No tours. They won't let us do a tour. But I would like to get an interview with Elon, and I'm working on it. I would like to get an interview. Patrick Wood chuckles a very nervous laugh when I talk about that. He's like, I'm not sure who this guy is at the end of the day. I said, I'm reading between the lines. I know what you're thinking, but I would like to interview him. So there you go. All right. Well, let's go find out what's going on in the other parts of the world. David Pine joins us now. David, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Brian. Great to be with you.
You too. Any thoughts on the fact that right here in the Mid-South, a few miles from us, Elon has now bought another 100 acres for Colossal, which is really the name of a 1970 movie I'd never seen, talking about how a supercomputer AI takes the world by hostage by threatening nuclear annihilation. He's going to build this with up to 2 million chips, and right now he's having to use over 2,000 gallons a minute to keep it cool. What are your thoughts?
Well, it looks like Skynet's in the process of being built. We could have another Terminator movie on our hands that kind of uses Musk as the villain, I suppose. But I don't know. I don't have any issues with it. But his choice of a name for the computer does seem an issue, I guess, to folks that are sci-fi fans from the 70s.
Yeah, well, I'd never heard of the film till now, and I think AI and computer programming and faster computers can be a wonderful thing when used the right way, but I am concerned about our infrastructure. We already had concerns about our infrastructure here in the Mid-South before this, okay? It was already known that we weren't so sure about our utilities here in the Mid-South, but I think we can say that pretty much about a lot of utilities across the country. I mean, you're the president of the EMP Commission. You deal with the power grid. So I can say, well, I know what concerns are by MLGW workers that have stood in my yard and said every day we wake up, we're shocked the power's on. And I laughed, and they said, we're not joking. I said, oh, I thought that was a joke. They said, oh, no, it's not a joke. This grid is so backdated and so archaic, and they aren't maintaining the tree lines like they should. And the wind blows here in the Mid-South, trees hit a line, the power goes down, or your power flickers, or it goes out. And remember that, was it in 2003, a tree hit a power line in Ohio, and all of Manhattan went down. People were walking out of Manhattan over the bridges. Remember all that? We'll have you comment on that when we come back. I hear the hard break coming. The computer dominates us too, by the way, already. These are all programmed hard breaks. So at the end of the day, the computer's in charge. We'll take that break, come back with David Pine. His website handle is dpyne.substack.com, and you can also find him at emptaskforce.us, emptaskforce.us. We'll let him comment on that. And then what about Putin coming to the table to negotiate a ceasefire? David has been tracking all of that. And then his thoughts on Iran, China, and Russia with a military exercise. More on the other side of the computer break. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Melissa and I have been taking Bella Grace, this powerful elixir, since last fall, 2023. The results have been amazing. My hands would crack and bleed, deep cuts and cracks every winter for years. No matter what we did, we couldn't get them to stop cracking and bleeding. This year, I took Bella Grace, no cracking, no bleeding. My acid reflux, gone. Haven't had to take a Pepsid. My hair growth, the last 2 times I had my hair cut, the lady had to use thinning shears on my hair. That's amazing. We've also received incredible feedback from you, our listening audience, and the impact it's had for you. This is loaded with astaxanthin. That's a powerful antioxidant. Collagen, but top grade collagen. Studies show 95% of it is being absorbed in the body because of the way they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Okay, David Pine joins us again. David, we're talking about the power grid, AI data centers. We know that there's the talk of, what is it, $100 billion investment that President Trump announced with people in the White House, Sam Altman and other guys of ChatGTP and whatnot. What are your concerns when it comes to the power grid and all these data centers?
Well, with the power grid, it is, as you mentioned, quite fragile. There are a lot of outdated systems. It's only going to get worse. Nuclear power has been really opposed by the far left environmental lobby. We could have had it's clean energy, and yet they still oppose it. So we need to build a lot more of those, but the turnaround time is probably 25 years. From a plant being attempted to be built to when it actually comes online. Coal plants are being phased out. The Biden administration pretty much tried to do everything they could to throw a monkey wrench into building new coal plants. So some of the ones we have are going to be too old to, they'll have to be, shut down. We're in a world of hurt. Without any EMP attack or super solar storms. Right now we have about 15% of margin on the grid. Our current situation is far from a crisis, but over the next decade or so, we could have rolling brownouts and blackouts potentially if we don't do something to address our grid energy requirements in terms of new power construction.
You said our grid right now is 15% what?
Yeah, so we have, the grid has kind of a margin, which means that it can produce in excess of requirements. So if we look at the entire national grid, there's 3 grids, of course, but overall, I've had briefed to me that we have a margin of up to 15%, which means we're producing up to 15% more energy than we require. But that's just overall. We've seen California. Obviously, my parents still live there. It's where I grew up. They have rolling blackouts, and that's why my parents built solar and have a Tesla Powerwall, as I do. So individual states may have, be more critical in terms of the margin, but overall, we're doing okay today. But the near-term outlook is not good. It's pretty grim.
Now, you just told me something I did not know. David, I didn't know you had a Tesla wall.
Yeah, I just had it installed last December, with all of the increasing threats of China against Taiwan, and of course, Biden trying to, bombard Russian cities, with long-range ATACMS missiles. I thought it might be a good idea to have some peace of mind with, energy that could potentially withstand a cyber attack. EMP attack would be a little bit unsure about that.
How well does it work for you? I mean, you've obviously tested it out, right?
We actually haven't had any blackouts that I'm aware of, or power outages. So we haven't battle tested it yet, but you can switch to production to you can do 50% backup, 100% backup. If it's 100% backup on your Tesla app, then all of the solar energy is going to the backup generator, the Tesla Powerwall. So it's a good thing to have. The cost is after taxes is probably around $27,000 or so. After taxes,
do you get a tax write-off on it though?
We are getting it's a 2-year tax write-off, and we're getting our first tax write-off of about $7,000, hopefully in the next month or so. Okay. So I recommend it to all reviewers.
Well, I was looking at them several years ago when they first came out, but I'm like, I don't know that it's developed enough. But now it sounds like they really are. Are you able to run on that for part of the day, so many days out of the month, to cut your power bill down? Have you tried that? Can you do that?
Yeah, so you can actually test it. You can actually go in grid down mode, and you can test to see how it would function if there's no power being supplied outside of solar. I haven't actually done that long term. I've just done it kind of briefly, and the power doesn't shut off. So I've only done it for several minutes, I think, but I ought to do that. I ought to shut it off for at least a day and see how we fare. But you do have to run your appliances. There are certain appliances that are real power hogs that you're not going to want to run in a grid down situation, such as washers, air conditioners, perhaps even heaters and stoves, or not stoves but ovens. So those are issues. And of course, if your power is down long term, some of those things you're not going to be able to run anyway. Especially the gas, like a gas burner. would not be feasible.
Yeah. See, I have a Generac generator that runs on LP from the gas line. And if the power grid goes down, I'm not sure they're going to keep pushing gas my way.
Well, that's the thing is, Dr. Peter Price before his untimely passing, he warned that the natural gas lines would likely explode. So you'd want to have it shut off to your house, or else there might be a risk of a fire in your house.
That's not good. Well, I do have a solar generator, but not a Tesla, not something that big. But, it's crazy we even have to talk about these things, but we do. Let's go right to the issue of World War III, something, Dr. Pry, yourself have been warning about for years. We woke up today to the news that Putin might be ready to come to the table to talk about a ceasefire. What's the latest?
Well, this it's a lot of kind of, rhetorical exchanges. Zelensky, as of Tuesday, he claims to support a ceasefire. Of course, he's vehemently opposed to a ceasefire, and he kind of colluded with Rubio, Waltz, and EU leaders in France, Britain, and Germany to come up with language that would be designed to ensure its unacceptability to the Russian Federation in terms of claiming that Russia would have to return not only prisoners of war, which might be feasible, a prisoner exchange, but also reportedly detain civilians. I've never heard of Russia detaining any Ukrainian civilians. It's possible that there might be a few, but then also supposedly forcibly relocated Ukrainian children to Russia. I mean, that's been a Ukrainian propaganda story that has no basis in fact. So of course, Russia wasn't going to accept any of those conditions. What's going to happen now is, Russian President Putin has stated that, he is open to the idea of a ceasefire, but it would require further discussions with President Trump. So he's looking to have a phone call, and I expect him to reiterate some of the conditions which Russia has been stating. And I think what he should respond with is a partial lifting of sanctions, of U.S. sanctions on Russia, as well as an arms suspension on Ukraine during the period of the ceasefire that could resume if Ukraine signs a peace deal. But also, accelerated discussions on, Russia's concerns in terms of a peace framework acceptable to Russia to end the war in Ukraine, as well as, some kind of security agreement with the U.S. Along the lines of what Russia proposed back in December 2021.
So, do you think we're going to get a peace deal, if you had to guess?
Well, so I think President Trump's expectations have been a little bit too high in terms of just being out of alignment with reality. I think the idea of trying to negotiate a peace deal with Ukraine first, it was a big mistake. Ukraine doesn't have a lot of cards, as Trump is fond of saying. It's Russia that holds all the cards. So all we need to do is negotiate a peace deal that's mutually acceptable to the U.S. and Russia. And as we've seen, even the Trump administration is willing to go to the bat for Ukraine so long as Zelensky plays ball, as he seems to have wanted to, with this Tuesday ceasefire agreement. So I think that President Putin is going to outline a few key conditions to a Russian acceptance of a ceasefire, kind of ignoring the Ukrainian conditions. And as Zelensky has stated, that Ukraine will not accept a ceasefire unless Russia accepts every single one of its conditions. 0% chance of that happening. Trump is going to say, okay, that's a win. Now I'm going to take this win to Zelensky and the ball's in his court, and Zelensky's going to say unacceptable, or he's going to try to weasel around that and maybe issue a counter proposal that's unacceptable to Russia. So this could go back and forth for months, really. What needs to happen is exactly what I just stated, and really he needs to send Rubio or perhaps even J.D. Vance to Riyadh to hammer out peace terms that could be done, I think, really within a few days of all-day meetings, assuming that the Trump administration is willing to accept most of Russia's terms, most of which are reasonable. But probably the biggest takeaway that I could say from today is that Russia, based on Putin's remarks, that Russia's given up its demand, or Putin's own demand of June 14th, 2024, that there be no ceasefire, not even a temporary ceasefire, until Ukraine had withdrawn from all the borders, the constitutional borders of all four Russian oblasts, and then allowed Russian troops to take those over. So that's a big win for the president. I haven't seen it reported anywhere else. But that concession should be what Trump, trumpets, I guess, to, for lack of a better term, to the world, to say that he's winning in terms of forcing Russia to make concessions as well as Ukraine, and then he needs to take forward Putin's ceasefire offer to Zelensky and pressure Zelensky to accept it. And if he doesn't accept it, he should cut off military aid again. But of course, there's going to be pushback from the neocons to do that again, because I think they're trying to exert more influence, kind of take control of Ukraine foreign policy, which is unfortunate.
What about, in closing here, what about the military exercises between Russia, Iran, and China? When are those taking place?
Yeah, those are taking place, I think, later this week, and these are pretty routine. They don't get reported on a lot, but every year or every few years, we see these joint military exercises involving members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which of course is led by China and Russia, but also includes Iran and pretty much every enemy country against the U.S. except for North Korea. North Korea I would say, is kind of an unofficial member. I think they send representatives, but for reasons that China doesn't want to admit, and Russia doesn't want to admit that North Korea is an ally. They like to kind of play North Korea off against the U.S. But it is concerning. It's concerning that Biden has pushed Russia into the arms of China, into an even closer military alliance with the PRC that Trump is working to try to break up, and I totally support his efforts to do so. dpine.substack.com, dpine.substack.com. As always, David, thanks for being with us. Thanks, Brent. Have a great weekend.
You too. David Pine checking in, folks. Also the president of the EMP Task Force, emptaskforce.us. So did you see the video today? Hundreds of Marxist Jewish protesters from Jewish Voices for Peace, a leftist Jewish group that advocates for Palestinians. I mean, can you believe this? These people are delusional. They just stormed and occupied the lobby of Trump Tower in New York City. Okay, I guess the question would be, what's with the security there? Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, welcome back. Glad you guys are with us. The ICC, the International Criminal Court, they just arrested the former president of the Philippines. We dealt with that last night. I want to touch on that in just 1 second, and then make a big announcement here for the first time to the public, something that our team has been working on, and I'm very excited about it, and it means a lot to me. You'll see why here in just a minute. But Laura Loomer, my friend Laura Loomer, has tweeted out that Hundreds of Marxist Jewish protesters from Jewish Voices for Peace, a leftist Jewish group that advocates for Palestinians, has just stormed and occupied the lobby of Trump Tower in New York City to protest President Trump's deportation order of pro-Hamas Palestinian national Mohammed Khalil. Okay, if this doesn't confuse the public, number one, this is one reason why people tune in and then turn off. They don't understand all the conflicts, okay? It's hard enough for the average person to keep up with Islam, communism, right? All these different things, all these different isms and worldviews that we've committed ourselves to studying and explaining for 35 years. But now all of a sudden you say to the average American, hey, do you know there's a Jewish group out there that just filled up the lobby of Trump Tower and they're defending one of the Hamas leaders in America? Okay, now the average American, their eyes roll back in their head and they're like, you know what? I think I'm just going to ignore the whole mess. Because I have no idea why Jews would be defending Hamas that carried out October 7th in Israel. I don't get that. They don't know this, but they do know about October 7th. Their charter calls for the elimination of the Jewish state and says no amount of talks, treaties, it's all a waste of time. It's in their own charter. We've talked about it, read it, showed it on the screen for years. But even with most Americans not knowing about Hamas and their charter and all that most of them will figure out, okay, October 7th, that's Hamas. There are Jews that are defending a Palestinian national pro-Hamas leader. Well, this is all just too complicated. I don't even think I want to try to understand it. And they check out. They really do. But we shouldn't do that. Now, we do know that there are self-hating Jews, okay? Karl Marx, Sigmund Freud, self-hating Jews. Remember the article I shared from one of the Jewish publications a few weeks ago? Are my Christian Zionist friends more Jewish than the leftist Jews? A question that the writer was asking. Something we've been saying a long time here, right? I'm more Jewish than most Jews in America. And by that, I mean, I care more about the Jewish people. I care more, I'm concerned more about rise of anti-Semitism, the attack of the Jewish people, the anti-Semitism, its roots, it's demonic. I care more about the right of the Jewish people to have their historical and biblical right to the land. I'm more informed on that issue than the average Jew in America. But remember, up until recently, many American Jews voted for far left people. Why? Because the propaganda, who's on the right? On the right are your Christians. Who carried out the Holocaust? Christians. Remember, Hitler was a Christian, they say. Remember Hitler? He had his Reich Church. All the denominations dissolved and united under the Reich bishop, handpicked by Adolf Hitler. They had the swastika and the cross at their conventions, their Protestant conventions, church conventions. You had Martin Luther saying these horrible things about the Jews, John Calvin. And so Satan loves to use all that to convince many people, including the Jews, you can't trust the Christians. Because remember, ultimately, folks, what's going on here? A big spiritual battle to stop the Jews from becoming believers. Satan doesn't want any of us, Jew, Gentile, or anyone to become a believer, right? But he particularly is targeting the Jews. Because if you have Jewish believers, you're now starting to lay the foundation for more Jews to become believers, right? And we know that in the tribulation period, once all the Christians are removed, 2 Jews show up preaching and teaching, the 2 witnesses, and many Jews hear and believe, because guess what? Some of those Jews may be on the planet right now who are saying, I like that Brandon House guy. I like him. One of my Jewish friends, Dov, he's Orthodox Jew. He had to get off the show the other night because the Sabbath was approaching, sundown. I got to go. I got 2 minutes, Brandon, and I got to get off the line. He was observing the Sabbath. And you know what he says on TV? I love you, Brandon. He tweeted out the other day. I don't follow a lot of tweets about myself, but Logan said, he tweeted out, the more I watch this Brandon House guy, the more I love Brandon House. Now, why do my Jewish Orthodox friends feel this way about me? Because they know where my worldview is as a Christian, right? He doesn't have to wonder, okay, what kind of Christian is Brandon House? Is he in with all these anti-Semites, John Calvin, Martin Luther, all the other anti-Semites on social media now that we're seeing that claim to be Christians? Oh, no, that's not Brandon House. He's a strong Christian Zionist, right? Now, some of these people, because I don't know where we are at on God's timetable, some of these people or their children may be here, physically here, when the church is removed, and they're going to go, wait a minute. I remember this Christian Zionist, Brandon House, talking about his Messiah. He loved the Jewish people. He understood the biblical right and historical right of our people to the land. And now we have these two guys showing up, clearly Jews, at least Elijah, for sure we're going to say that. Yeah, Moses, Hebrew. And they're preaching. And look at that. They're talking about the same things Brandon House, that Christian Zionist, was talking about. Of course, Satan doesn't want us doing what we're doing. Of course, Satan doesn't want more Jews to understand about us Christian Zionists. Because some of them may actually have their hearts softened up toward the gospel. And I don't know what time we're in, but if the rapture were to happen tomorrow, some of them will be here and their hearts are going to be very softened in some ways and say, you know what, my Christian Zionist friend Brandon House, I think he was right. I need to understand more about what he believed. Or my Messianic Jewish friends. Some of them have Messianic Jewish friends. So Satan wants the world to be so confused about the issue of the Jews that they just check out and they don't even talk about it. And so when you see Marxist Jews storming into Trump's lobby, the first question is, A, doesn't this just confuse the living daylights out of most people? Jews defending Hamas. Okay, too complicated to understand. I don't even want to know about it. I'm not even going to try to figure it out. And they move on. That's bad. Number two, how did these protesters get into the Trump Tower lobby? Am I the only one? And I know I'm not. Saying what is going on with security that this could even happen. You see the videos. The bike barricades are all up, right? There's supposed to be this tight security. Everybody knows that Trump Tower is a target. I mean, doesn't President Trump go back there some? He's not there today. He's in the Oval Office. But I don't know where Melania is. I know their son's going to school in New York. Does he come and go from there? Well, not to mention just the employees and the people that live in that building with the name Trump on it. That to me is very distressing. Is it to you? But I'll go back to the first point. One reason we're here is to help people understand these worldviews. How is it you could have Marxist Jews? Yeah. Don't forget, in Revelation, at least twice, John the Revelator is listening, and the Lord says, I know there are some who have persecuted you that are of the synagogue of Satan. Now, people use those verses and they say, you see, even the Bible calls them the synagogue of Satan. No, that is not a blanketed description of every Jewish person any more than every pastor per John 10 gets described as a hireling. Well, you know what Jesus says about pastors? They're all useless hirelings. No, that's not what the text is saying. It is saying there are false pastors who don't care about the sheep. They just simply want to fleece the sheep. They run away when there's trouble. When there's a test, they run away. They don't want to spiritually protect the sheep. They're spiritual cowards and traitors. And they're not pastors. They're not shepherds. They're hirelings. That's not a condemnation of pastors. It's a condemnation of hirelings. The use of synagogue of Satan is not a condemnation of all Jews any more than the use of hireling in John 10 is a condemnation of all pastors. The context. It is saying we know there are those who persecute you, and some of them are Jewish, and they're turning on the Jews that are becoming believers, and they're turning on some of the Gentiles who become believers, and we know about these people, and you did not allow that to weaken your faith or your perseverance, which is sometimes the word patience is used. You have remained patient, and that word can also mean perseverance. You've continued to persevere, and it's being counted righteousness to you. Remember in the letters to the churches. So, yes, some of these Marxist Jews would be thrown into that camp. Some of them are not even religious, okay? Some of them may be, but a lot of them are secular. That's just their birth. They don't care. They'll use I'm Jewish. They'll use that to their advantage to somehow confuse people and to give aid and comfort to what is their ultimate goal and worldview, not Judaism, Marxism. But this certainly does confuse the world, no doubt about it. All right. Did you guys hear the little exchange between a Congress member, two men in Congress the other day? Listen to this, folks. Listen to this. Okay, I got no, I think we got audio, right, guys? Here we go.
The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply...
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America, please?
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this.
You will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
Wow. Well, good for him for adjourning it. You guys understand what's going on here? There's a dude who thinks he's a lady. He shows up with his long hair and makeup and dresses. And the House has already said, we're not putting up with this foolishness. There are two genders, and we're going with your biologically born gender. This dude, where's he from? Massachusetts, Logan? Got addressed as Mr. And the co-chair of the committee didn't like it. And the chairman said, fine, this committee's adjourned. Again, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, they couldn't even process this. They couldn't even process this. I can sometimes not process it. How about you? 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions on any of this. 1-800-347-9829. If you got a computer, get in front of it. I'm going to show you guys something that I'm really excited about right after this. Phone line's open. We're not changing courses. Now, we are who we are. We're committed to the truth that we are committed to. Worldview Tube is a broadcast network that I started in 2006, but it's based on my 35 years as an author and speaker and commentator. Worldview Tube is here to defend the truth of a Christian worldview. And we believe we can apply it to all areas of life, like law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, major issues.
At worldviewtube.com, we provide news from around the globe that isn't typically covered by mainstream media. Visit worldviewtube.com to watch our experts and analysts discuss all your favorite topics on our 24/7 live stream. Explore our extensive collection of unfiltered and uncensored content from 35 years of production. Go to worldviewtube.com today. Also find us on all of these major platforms and download our Worldview Tube mobile app.
All right, welcome back. 1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions. 1-800-347-9829. Real quick, last night I did a segment with Michael Yon about the Panama Canal and BlackRock buying that. And China all around the Panama Canal. I also did a segment last night with Patrick Wood, and then I did one with J.J. Carroll. The International Criminal Court went in and arrested the former president of the Philippines. He was really cracking down on the drug traffickers and the sex traffickers when he was president of the Philippines. And apparently there's been a falling out between him and the current president, Marcos. Remember Amelia Marcos? Was that her name? That old the shoes? That's his mother. Remember his dad was the president at one time? Well, he's the president now, and apparently he and the former president are falling out, and now he's allowed the International Criminal Court to come in with the help of the Philippine government and arrest the former president of the Philippines and put him on a plane and take him to The Hague at 79 years old. Now, I'm not here to defend him. I don't know what was going on. Apparently, he was killing a lot of drug dealers, a lot of drug lords, and a lot of sex traffickers. And some say he was overkilling and doing it without search warrants and all the legal process and whatever. You know, all right, well, I don't know how many innocent people got caught up in that. I don't know. Maybe nobody did. Maybe he was just like, he campaigned that he was going to kill him. I mean, he campaigned, I'm going to take out the drug dealers and the sex traffickers. He campaigned on it. He got elected on that, okay? So here's the issue that we talked about last night. Why is the International Criminal Court in this big move grabbing a former leader, dragging them back to The Hague? Why would they not indict him with a grand jury in the Philippines and let the people of the Philippines judge him? Maybe because a lot of the people in the Philippines like the fact he did away with sex traffickers and drug dealers. I don't know. But this is a dangerous precedent, and it also could send a chilling, be a threat, if you will, to people like, I don't know, Marco Rubio, President Trump, J.D. Vance, could be Benjamin Netanyahu, Putin. Do we really need judges from Uganda? Judges from Romania, where they stopped a nationalist from having his election because he was ahead and even arrested him in Romania? Do we need a judge from Romania sitting in judgment of other countries when they're such a mess? Certainly not in the judgment of America. And in February, President Trump pulled us out of the International Criminal Court again and put sanctions against some of the judges. This is a big deal, but it's pretty well gone silent on most media outlets. Now, before we go to the calls, what am I excited about? Our team, if you go to worldviewtube.com, actually, you can go to the About at the top and hover over it. Otherwise, if you can just want to go to worldviewtube.com/about, worldviewtube.com/about. The team has been working for over 3 months to collect video from the 90s off VHS and all kinds of things and put together a whole page of our history since 1990. And if you'll notice, I do want to point out, if you go there, you will notice a little red play button on a few of the pictures. If you see those little red play buttons on any of the pictures, click that. That means that there's going to be a video behind that, okay? So you'll see me back in 1991, 1993, with our documentaries on the New Age movement and education. But you'll see so many fun pictures of me with Dr. D. James Kennedy, me with Phyllis Schlafly, Jerry Falwell, Josh McDowell doing his radio show from my office, me with Oliver North on his show at CPAC, me interviewing Jack Kemp, all the way back to the 1990s and forward to today. It is so fun to watch and to remember the things we have done. Some of them I really kind of forgot about and brought back a lot of memories. And the team worked really hard to put together our history and our heritage. And one reason I like it is because it's fun for me to reminisce about all we've been able to accomplish. But it's also, I want to make it very clear what the Lord has allowed us to do. All the prophet, there's me with Adrian Rogers, Tim LaHaye, and so many others. All the things the Lord has allowed us to do. I'm just blown away. I really am. But it also, I wanted to show you and for you to show your kids and your grandkids, this guy and his team have been at this a long time. Not like today where anybody can get a microphone and a podcast. Brandon and his team have been laboring at this diligently for a long time and taking some pretty tough stands and not withering and wilting away. So I want to thank the team. They worked so hard on it for 3 months. Took a lot to grab a lot of this stuff, and there it is. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to, let's see, first caller. You got to take that down, guys, so I can see. There we go. Let's go to Mason, line 1. Mason, thanks for calling in, Mason.
Hey, Brandon, I was just listening to the Marxist Jews part of it on the radio in my truck. I want to thank you guys for the biblical worldview you guys bring to these issues. And second of all, real quick, I wanted to say that there's a lot of parallels between Gays for Palestine and the Marxist Jews. It's both self-destructive ideology.
Yes.
And it's all very clearly a incredibly well put out satanic agenda that's just, I mean, it's in your face, and the world can't see it because they're blind.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mason. Hey, Mason, how old are you?
I am 22.
Awesome. I could tell his voice made it sound young.
I love your show.
Well, thank you,
it's
Mason.
awesome. So
Well, I'm
I
just honored.
appreciate you for taking my call.
Well, no, I appreciate your calling. I'm just so glad to hear a 22-year-old young man listening. Thank you, Mason. Wow. Call back more often. Let's go to Gerald in Minnesota, line 4. Hi, Gerald.
Hi, Brandon.
Hi.
First, I want to give a shout out to VCY America, KVCS station.
Thank you.
And regarding AI, I was looking to solve a technical problem this week, and I put the same question in Copilot and Google and Grok, and the answer I got back from Grok was leaps and bounds higher. But the thing about AI is it's a baby right now, and it'd be foolish to let that baby to grow up without a influence of a Christian worldview. So I encourage listeners to interact with these AI. For example, just tell it to generate 10 questions for a men's Bible study with one question for each of the first 10 verses of Romans chapter 13, and the answers should be easily found by reading the verse. And because these things learn from humans.
You're right, Gerald. And do you know
from
that?
us.
Do you know that I've gone in and had conversations with some of them just so that we could get the information on a few things straight? And you're absolutely right. It's fascinating. You can train them. But I'll tell you, Gerald, we have AI. We have AI servers. They are isolated. They're quarantined. I've been talking about it for months. And you talk about using AI for a Christian worldview. We won't have to train it to have a Christian worldview in unbrainwashing it, because it's all quarantined with myself, Jimmy DeYoung, Andy Woods, John Whitcomb. I mean, on and on and on and on, 35 years. And soon you will be able to do research, and you, I think, will enjoy the fact that it will work so quickly, pulling out research for us all, so we can use it for good, and that's what we intend to do. All right, guys, stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Snyder. Take care.
This has been Worldview Radio.
All right, I want to go back to that page, folks. It's worldviewtube.com/about. worldviewtube.com/about. We're announcing it for the first time today. You guys just heard about it for the first time. And I hope you'll grab this and send it around, because I believe that our resume speaks credibility. And I want you to be able to present this to your friends, your family, your acquaintances, and say, now look, take a look at what this guy has been doing. This is 35 years of hard work and research, 15, 16 books, documentaries on worldview. And he hasn't left his first love. He's still doing what he started out to do 35 years ago, which is to bring a Christian worldview to bear on the big issues of the day, unapologetically. And this is what sets us apart from everyone else. When the team was working on this and grabbing all of these things from the 1990s and forward, that was how I was continually viewing this. This page shows that we are unique and we are different. And I'm not going to apologize for that, because what makes us unique and different is that we are committed to the truth of a Christian worldview, the truth of the Bible, the claims of the Bible. And we've been willing to take those even into the area of media with high-profile interviews. And you know, I have never had, one of them, if you go there, you'll see Bill O'Reilly. In 1999, it's got a red play button, and if you click it, you'll see my interview with Bill O'Reilly. And in particular, I'm talking about the Christian worldview with Bill O'Reilly on Fox News. Do you know I have never had anyone that I'm aware of, that I can ever remember, in a high-profile interview or relationship ever say, you know, Brandon, you're a talented, knowledgeable broadcaster, but can you quit it with the whole Christian worldview and Bible thing? No, no one has ever said that to me. In fact, what they have said is, hey, Brandon, can I ask you a theological question? Hey, Brandon, can you tell me why it is I shouldn't have bitterness toward these liberal, progressive, Marxist Jews that have come after me for years? Some of them being lawyers and in the government that have persecuted me. Can you help me with that? And I've been able to answer theological questions, Bible prophecy questions for nationally known figures, who I won't name because those are confidential conversations. But do you know I've never had one of these national figures that I've interacted with and worked with closely and interviewed ever say, your show would be so much better if you would just quit talking about the Bible and a Christian worldview? No. To the contrary. You know, I was invited to speak at the 50th anniversary of the Iowa Governor's Prayer Breakfast. That was a real honor. Again, it was a validation with all these people sitting there, U.S. Senator Grassley and others. And to think, you know, what a great country we live in to talk about the Christian worldview. And we don't need to be apologetic about that, folks, because it's right. It's accurate. It is the dominant worldview when it comes to, well, it's 100% accurate when you apply it from the Bible. Why should we ever apologize for that or back away from that? I'm not gonna. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of God will stand forever. And we get our Christian worldview, obviously, from the Bible. And it has been a joy to do what I do. You know, the Bible says, I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. That's an abundant life full of great experiences, full of spiritual experiences, spiritual activity, eternal life. And I could say that. I know many of you that are maybe up there in age, far beyond me, say that same thing. Life has been so much more meaningful and having purpose because I'm a Christian. So why on earth would I apologize for being a Christian or bringing it to bear on the major issues of the day? I'm not going to. Has it cost us? Yeah. You can see where a gunman came into our conference. The video's there. There you go. You see the red dot right there? That you click that, you'll see the video of him carrying on, flashing his guns at us. We've had a lot of fun. And Lord willing, we'll have many more years of it. Because at the end of the day, you know what? Doing the things of the Lord, serving the Lord, contending for the truth, battling for hearts and minds, it is actually fun. Sometimes we grow weary. I grow weary in the work, or in the war, but not in the work. I love the work, but I sometimes grow weary in the war, but not of the work. I love it. And hope you'll celebrate with us our 35 years. worldviewtube.com/about. Take care.